This evening's Knowledge Friday, the Shinnecock Kelp Farmers. I'm going to cry. Rebecca Genia, Danielle Hopson
Rebecca Genia, Shinnecock Kelp Farmers, enrolled member of the Shinnecock Indian Nation, and thank you all for coming here tonight. So nice to see a crowded room. Beautiful.
Hakame, welcome. My name is Tela Troge. I'm an enrolled member of the Shinnecock Nation, an attorney, the director of Shinnecock Kelp Farmers, and a mother. My name is Danielle Hopson Begun. I'm also an enrolled member of Shinnecock Nation, and I reside on the nation, and I'm a kelp farmer. I'm so happy to see so many faces tonight. It really warms my heart. So we do have a PowerPoint, unless you want to just start talking. So I don't know how familiar everyone is with the Shinnecock Kelp Farmers. I see a lot of new faces here, which is really exciting to see. We're a collective of Indigenous women. We work intergenerationally in an attempt to regenerate the local waterways. We've seen some devastation to our traditional way of life due to a number of factors, including outdated septic systems, lack of wastewater treatment, as well as runoff from some of the agricultural activities in the area. And so in 2019, we partnered with an organization known as Green Wave to start the cultivation of sugar kelp, which has an incredible ability to sequester carbon, excess carbon dioxide from the water and the atmosphere, as well as extract excess nitrates from the water. It has additional benefits in increasing the biodiversity. It replenishes the oxygen in the water through photosynthesis, and in our experience has been incredible in terms of the biodiversity that we've been able to increase in the bay. And so I'll turn it to Dan. Some of the water quality issues here that we see.
We've all seen the devastating effects of pollution and overdevelopment. I'm sure you've all seen this coming out of Stony Brook, and this is a big reason for doing what we do. We are at the point where traditional knowledge and climate science meet. The impact that the seaweed has had on our tribal community for generations, we've always used seaweed for a myriad of uses. We've used it for food, we've used it for pest control, we've used it in our homes to insulate, and it's always been a part of our lives. It's never not been there for us. Did you want to add anything about Kelp? The waters surrounding Long Island have sustained our nation since time immemorial, and we have always co-managed the marine environment with our relatives, seaweed, fish, and all living creatures. And I know that many of you know the health benefits of kelp. It offers iodine, improves thyroid function, it helps with a healthy bacteria in the digestive tract, vitamin A, vitamin B1. So we knew all along that kelp was good for us. And now through science, we're able to prove to others that this is all true. So this is really an example of that. There is a journal article called Surviving Folktales and Herbal Lore Among Shinnecock Indians of Long Island. And this gentleman cited that seaweed steeped is for bathing sore parts, and that he believed that it will cure rheumatism. Surprise, it's all true. So this study actually documents the anti-arthritis effects and anti-inflammatory effect of sugar kelp. Before we go into hatchery? Okay. So part of what we do is we have a hatchery as well as a farm. So we start out, we have really 4 parts of our season. We start in our hatchery, which is generally around September. We have a number of aquarium and schools with 400 feet of line in each aquarium. So each aquarium has about 3,200 feet, and we partner with Stony Brook as well as Cornell, Green Wave, other entities where we share divers who go out and search for fertile kelp fronds. Once they find the fronds, they bring them back in. And that sounds very simple, but it's not, because due to warming waters, it's getting harder and harder to find. So once they find it, they bring it back to us. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we have to wait for another dive. It happens, it presses our season out. It's an ongoing battle to keep finding the fertile fronds. So they bring it in, we process it, we add clear seawater, which releases the seed, and we add it into our perfect aquaria. So that means the light is right, the nutrition is right, and the temperature is right. Sugar kelp loves cold water. So once we're in the hatchery, we know that we can't see, they're microscopic, we can't see them. We're hoping that once we've introduced them to the aquarium, we're hoping that they will adhere and that we haven't made any mistakes. Every year we do a program called Kind Words, which was born really out of us saying to ourselves, well, what else can we do during this period where we don't know whether things are alive and going well, what else can we do? And we've seen a few studies where plants do better with people, women in particular, speaking to them, and that they seem to grow better, and when they have kind words spoken onto them, they do better. And we had found ourselves throughout the season singing, talking to them in general, just because because that's what you do when you're nurturing someone or something. And so we made it a little bit more formal and invited the Sisters of St. Joseph and other groups who join us over Zoom. And everyone gets a minute or two to speak whatever they would like to. Sometimes people sing, sometimes people play an instrument. I think we had a flautist. And it's very beautiful. And it's a great way for people to enter our hatchery in a way that they generally wouldn't be able to. So after about 10 weeks, we are ready for outplanting. The seed gets to be about 5 millimeters, and we put out our anchors, which are about 5 to 7 pounds apiece, and they are 100 feet apart, and we attach marine rope, and then we unfurl our precious kelp seed onto that rope. That's us. Now you can tell that I am quite cold. So that is January that year, and it is cold. So we do wear thermal waders, special gloves, and coats, toe warmers, especially to protect our toes, our noses, and our fingers. This is our kelp. Now remember, it was microscopic. It went out at 3 to 5 millimeters, and now this is about 4 weeks in. So this is a very happy time when we start to see this kind of growth. We do have a nemesis called Ectocarpus slipgut, which many of you might, if you're fishermen or you grow oysters or anything like that, you've seen it. If you've been in the water, you've seen it. It's this goopy algae that threatens to cover our lines. So we do spend some time trying to remove it, and the earlier we get out in the season, the less likely we are to be smothered by the slipgut. Do you want to talk about the carbon?
Sure, I also want to talk about getting out into the water earlier. You may have seen some studies that have come out that really question the viability of growing sugar kelp in the Peconic estuary. There's a lot of studies showing that it does really good in the East River, it does really good in Seven Riches, but there's some skepticism about how well it does out in the Peconic and in the Shinnecock Bay, which is primarily where we grow our sugar kelp. And so this season we had phenomenal success because we were able to shorten our hatchery season from the 10 weeks that we're typically experiencing down to, in some cases, 2 weeks, which is really short, but other cases 4 weeks, using a new innovation where we weave together our traditional ecological knowledge with some science coming out of Yale University through Dr. Charlie Yarish. It's a process known as gametophytes, and it allows us to get out into the water earlier, primarily October, sometimes November, and it allows us to bypass this season where slipgut starts occurring because of all the excess nitrogen. So one of the amazing things about sugar kelp, and really all seaweeds, is its ability to extract excess nitrates from the water. A lot of the sewer systems, the septic systems that are outdated, are causing just this like overloading of nutrients into the bay. I know the town of Southampton is working really hard to implement wastewater treatment and upgrade septic systems, which is incredibly important. The work that we're doing, it's equivalent to maybe a dozen septic upgrades, but we can't do it alone. We really need to work in conjunction, partnership together. So that's nitrates, but sugar kelp also has the incredible ability to sequester carbon. And for us, excess carbon in the water equates to a process called ocean acidification. And ocean acidification is really, really, really detrimental to shellfish. So those clams, oysters, mussels, scallops that we love so much, when you have the excess carbon, it turns into an acid that really eats away the shells. So these are really brittle, really hard for the shellfish to survive. And studies have shown that when you add sugar kelp or other types of seaweed into those types of aquifers, agriculture environments, you can sequester enough carbon to localize the impact of ocean acidification. We're not going to solve the whole problem in the ocean, but locally in our waters, estuaries, bays, we can have a real impact on sequestering enough carbon to allow for life. And then as we're extracting the nitrogen, oxygen is replacing it through the process of photosynthesis of the growth of the sugar kelp. So it's really a really amazing cycle, a really natural way to replenish and regenerate and restore some of what used to be. I know if you've been here a long time, you remember what the bays used to be like before a lot of the brown tides, red tides, and a lot of the overdevelopment has caused excess nutrients in the water now.
So this is one of the programs that we participate with Green Wave. We talk about them a lot because they really have been instrumental in helping us with a lot of our technical assistance. So we collect data once a month, once we're outplanted, about a foot. We harvest and weigh and take measurements, and we submit, and from that data, they're able to extrapolate how much carbon and how much nitrogen we sequester throughout our growing season. And there we are at harvest at 20 weeks. Now that's a very joyful face because that is very big kelp. That is close to 6 feet long, at least 3 inches wide, and it's a really happy day. That's Donna Collins-Smith. So once we harvest, we dry and grind into a soil amendment. So we are coming right now, we're coming up on our harvest time and are about to go into the drying process. And depending on the year, one year we decided to create a grid web system, and we sandwiched the kelp between reclaimed screens and flipped them over. We just needed 2 days of full sun and put it out, flip them over, and then we were able to grind into our soil amendment, which is another way that we have traditionally used seaweed throughout all time. So this is a few pictures of some work that we do. A lot of educational outreach throughout Long Island and really throughout the world, really. And this first picture here on the left, I'm particularly proud of this group. I met their director. It's a girls' robotics team through the Mary Lewis Academy in Queens. And their director had turned up at one of our talks, and I was complaining about how it took forever to string the spools, the 400 feet of string on the spools. And they were all pointing to the woman in the back saying, hey, go talk to Kathy. She does all this great stuff, all this tech stuff. So Kathy would visit me. They were there for the weekend. They would come in to the hatchery and would talk about what we'd already developed and what we were thinking about developing. Long story short, she connected us with her team, who helped us create a stringing machine with 3D printing. And what I love about it is that these young women were able to solve a real-world problem for real-world solutions. And we did a mentoring day, and you heard earlier, maybe you could talk about taking time a little bit. We are working on a digital book, and you heard the video that the book is based on with Becky.
Yeah, so the song that you heard at the very beginning called Taking Time was written probably 40 years ago. So I really like those, songs that last, stand the test of time. So for the first 20 years, the song kind of like, we didn't perform it that much. And so probably 20 years ago, I decided, well, we're going to just spiff it up and we're going to record it. So when you hear the song and then you hear the children in the background, they're all grown now with their own children. So that's one of my favorite songs. And, you know, so it inspired us to write a children's book for our kelp farming, to help with, and me too, because, I mean, it's a lot. This is science, it's culture, of course, but it's also science. And I'm like, the gametophores and the photosynthesis and everything. So to put it in the sorus tissue, that was a big one for me. And so to put all of this into perspective and everything, was, okay, we're going to write a children's book. So that's going pretty good. And taking time is, you know, the main purpose of you know, bringing it to reminding everyone, everybody, every single person is important. Don't ever let anybody tell you, you know, one person can't do anything, but, you know, we can, especially when we encourage each other to have that empowered attitude. We can. Like they say, one bee, you know, nobody's scared of one bee, but you know what? When there's about 10,000 bees coming at you, you better hide and think about it. So yeah, that's taken time. Our children's book, I would say, is probably maybe 80% done now. So we're really looking forward to that coming out and hopefully get it into the school systems on Long Island or wherever, everywhere. It's a beautiful story, a beautiful book, and we're just really excited about that also.
This is part of it. And you see Kelpie and the marine habitat that he is working hard to protect. And that's just some of our experiences. So we had taken the book into the Hayground School. That's the little people on the right, and they were very receptive and just darling and very, they paid attention the entire time. Here we are.
Are you guys ready for questions? Are there other remarks you have first? Yeah, question time? Any questions for the Kelp April?
This is so inspiring and wonderful. Thank you. And I love the idea of women nurturing plants. It just makes all the sense in the world. I was just talking to dog trainers. I was reading about dog training before I led a discussion amongst dog trainers. And one of the things that I read is that women tend to make all animals calmer because of our voices and demeanor. And it's, yay, plants too. It's so great. My question is, are there areas on Long Island where sugar kelp is naturally found in a healthy environment, or is there literally no place like that left? I'm assuming that sugar kelp is a native plant, yes?
Yes, so sugar kelp, the most genetically adapted to the warming waters is located off of Fisher's Island. So most folks who are relying on the wild dive method are diving to a kelp forest right off of Fisher's Island. Otherwise, on the Connecticut side of Long Island Sound, there's another naturally occurring forest that can also withstand the warming temperatures. But every single season, we're seeing warmer and warmer temperatures, which is extraordinarily alarming. And of course, sugar kelp is a cold water loving crop. So currently the situation is that we're looking to expand to other types of seaweed that thrive better with the warming temperatures, in addition to using technologies such as gametophores, which you can grow year-round in a laboratory environment and not rely so much on the diving. But there's red seaweeds that thrive in the summer that are really beneficial. They actually absorb more nitrogen, and when you turn into a soil amendment, they are able to complete that nutrient loop of the nitrogen that plants need to an even better extent than kelp. And then we also have ulva, which is another warmer water seaweed that occurs here in quite abundance. It's another source of seaweed that we combine right now currently with the sugar kelp as part of our soil amendment.
So the red kelp can withstand warmer water temperatures if thrives better in summer. If all the nitrogen loading from all the over-fertilization stopped right now, would that make the waters naturally cooler and healthier, or is the kind of global climate change that's happening, do you think, making that impossible in some way? And I'm not being defeatist about this, I'm just wondering practically, like, how that works scientifically.
So it's a really big problem. So what the seaweed and the sugar kelp is really addressing is two separate problems. It's the nitrogen overloading. Suffolk County is the largest unsewered county in the entire United States. We have antiquated septic systems that are at the level of the water table, literally just seeping raw sewage into the water. That's creating the algae blooms that we see. When you have algae blooms, it depletes all of the oxygen in the water, creating just dead zones. So that's one problem. The other problem is excess carbon, which is greenhouse gases. You know, now every time you take a flight, you see this is your carbon impact. How can you be more carbon neutral? What can you do? So it's two different things. This is a very localized approach, a very community-based approach. So while we can't solve the global problem, we can restore the health of the estuaries and the bays locally in the regions that do have kelp farming. It's a little bit tricky for us here in New York because legislatively, the cultivation of seaweed is technically illegal, except for in the very limited geographic scope of Gardiner's Bay and Peconic Bay, and cultivation is limited only to sugar kelp. You can't cultivate any other type of seaweed. Of course, that doesn't apply to indigenous. That's the law, and so you have states like Connecticut, Maine that just have thriving seaweed industries and these thriving attempts at ecosystem restoration, and New York is just stuck behind this regulatory red tape. I mean, there's efforts to, you know, expand the geographic scope and also expand the type of species because, you know, when we face reality and we see, well, sugar kelp is playing its part, but, you know, when we look at the reality, we have to expand to other types of seaweed, then we have to go to the state legislature. Tommy John Schiavone will be able to help us with that. I think he wins his election.
What year was that legislation written that made it illegal to farm?
So it was only legalized. It was one of the first acts that Kathy Hochul, when she became the governor, it was one of the first bills that she signed into law making it legal. For us, it's a little bit different because we work on reserved rights that we have through agreements dating back to 1659. So for Indigenous people, it doesn't apply to, but we can't do this alone. And that's part of what we're all about, is taking action, working together, getting as many people involved in this as possible. So there is legislative work that needs to be done to expand the scope of who can do this and where it can be done, because it is a very viable climate solution. And again, it's not the answer in itself. This isn't the one magic silver bullet, but if we can do this short-term localized solution, in addition to, for example, passing the law that's coming up to, for the 1/8% sales tax that would go to water quality improvement in Suffolk County in order to fund the upgrading of our septic systems. I know there's other funds of money that are being used, a community preservation fund. I know Fred Thiel is looking at increasing the amount of the community preservation fund that can be used for water quality. Doing these things together and widening the scope can make a very real impact, and it's very quick. It was incredible in just our first season doing it, the impact in biodiversity, because we were restoring the oxygen, the amount of species that we were seeing at our farm was incredible. We worked with the Nature Conservancy, the director, he's like an avid bird watcher. He came to our farm one day. I've never seen someone so excited about birds. He said, I haven't seen that bird in Shinnecock Bay in 25 years and it's flying over your farm. But, you know, we've seen even scallops. We've recently experienced 99% die-off, the federal fisheries disaster of scallops. And we see baby scallops all the time in our farm. So it's like a visible, I don't want to say instant, but it's a very quick way to restore and re-oxygenate and make a habitable, hospitable environment for species that we're not even cognizant of that are being drawn to it.
I want to ask 2 questions. Well, we have so many. Yes, please. Very incredible work. What exactly motivated or inspired you starting this? Like, how did it actually start?
So, you know, you put us together and forget about it. We're going to figure out something. And but, you know, and I'm older than Tela. I'm her mom's age. And, you know, so growing up on Shinnecock and being able to just go out into the water anytime you wanted to get clams, mussels, scallops, snails, everything. Anything that we got out of the sea, we could bring home and eat. Eels was like so delicious. And we would catch them and go home and skin them and eat them. And we could have, like, we could fill up bushels and bushels of anything that, you know, we wanted to eat for the night. And so you kind of like took that for granted when you're growing up, but still there was always this lurking thing of, you know, we know that something's going on here. We would see more houses, more boats, more activity. And so, you know, fast forward to now, I want, you know, my children, well, they're all grown, but my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren to be able to live like, you know, we did and better. There should be no problem ever with any shellfish. And I don't even know if my great-granddaughter, my great-grandchildren, I don't know if they've ever even seen a scallop full grown. They see the shells on the shores, but I don't even know how many mussels they've really seen. And we could just pick them. There were like clumps of mussels everywhere on the shoreline of Shinnecock, from the point all the way to the college entrance. It was like, it was paradise. And you know, you want your kids, that's what it's all about. And when we talk about the 7 generations, that's what we think about. And we take it very seriously. I mean, my great-grandfather was my best friend, and he was born in like 1887 or something like that. So him, you know, his kids, their kids, my mother, there's 7 generations that I can touch both of them and know both. And it's no joke to us. So this opportunity came along, and you know, when we were younger, we would slip on the seaweed. It was wonderful, but one of the favorite parts of the seaweed was when we did our clam bakes. And we would, you know, dig our pits, put the, just pile it with wood and start the fire, and then the seaweed, and then the like canvas bags over it, burlap bags and stuff, and just cook it, you know, lobsters, clams, every single thing will go on those. And the steam is healing too for any kind of lung issues you have, and all your sinuses get cleared out. So even the steam from the clam bakes, everything was healing, and you know, that's the way we grew up. I want to be able to pass that down. My kids know about it, and older grandkids, but you know, years go by and it's dwindling on us. So when this opportunity came up to actually have this as a business perspective and everything, Tela and I said, let's go. So, yeah, that's it, yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to take some questions from others.
Thank you for what you're teaching us. Speaking of business, I take a kelp pill capsule every day. But apart from that, I don't really know how, and you make a soil additive, though that wasn't the word. But where can we find your kelp or other people's kelp, and in what form?
So we try to, again, be really mindful of our impact and be as carbon neutral as possible. So we usually only sell it at like local farmers markets. We do have a social media site where you could see where we're going to be. We don't do any really want to be an alternative to like chemical fertilizers. One of the reasons why we don't market our product medicinally, even though kelp is very good for, I mean, you name it, anti-aging, arthritis, Lyme's disease, the water quality where we grow our sugar kelp is so bad that we really feel like there needs to be more restoration and more cleanliness of the water before we're able to market it for more human consumption type uses. That being said, you know, we do have a lot of support from companies like La Mer, which makes a skin cream that's very popular. And we are looking at different sites where the water quality is a little cleaner in order to market for those types of medicinal uses.
Great. Kristen, there's a question back there? Oh. Sorry, sir? Did you have a question?
The question was just answered.
Oh, great. Glad to hear it.
So my question is beyond kind words. Do you need volunteers? Do you need workers? Do you need people who can roll up their sleeves and put on their thermal booties and be helpful?
Yes. That's the short answer. The long answer is that it's hard work, and it is over the winter, and I do my work in the water by the tide. So if the tide is at 6 a.m. and we have light, that's when we go. It has to be a low tide because we are shallow water kelp farmers. We don't have a boat yet, so we're limited to how far out we can go. So yes, we do, especially at harvest time, which is something on the shore, which is a lot easier for people to be able to do. And sugar kelp is very heavy bringing it out of the water. Thank you for asking.
Also, do you, I know Tommy John has a question, but in response, I'm asking a follow-up question to that. Because actually my last question of the night is going to be, how can each one of us help? Because you were all impressing upon us the power of individual action, and I know everybody here is probably thinking, what can I do? And I think we should end on that note, but before we get there, we have a couple more minutes, and I wanted to ask, is this endeavor self-sustaining, or are you looking for, like you mentioned, needing a boat? Is that something, are you seeking donations, or would you like someone here to give you a boat? Like, is this, I know that sounds silly, but it's never a bad idea to put your intention out into the world.
Yes.
Excellent. I don't know. Come see us after. If you got a spare boat,
Right.
let us know.
You have a spare boat. We've been looking for a 16-foot skiff. But we're also looking at designing a boat that could possibly harness the sun's energy, because that is really who we are, is trying to be as efficient as we can throughout our entire process. So we don't want to do all this cleaning and then have a boat that is just putting carbon back.
Great.
Thank you for what you were doing. We really do appreciate this, and I've been following this in the press, and I appreciate your talk here tonight. My question is a simple one. Shinnecock Bay has been dedicated as a hope spot, and this work is part of that. Do you also have operations in the Shinnecock Bay off of your property at the Westwood site? Are you going to put kelp farming out there as well?
So the feasibility studies for Shinnecock Bay were not very promising. So we've really been focusing on Shinnecock Bay, but I think that's really changing with the new technology now that we have available to us. With the Gametophyte process and being able to overcome some of the difficulties and challenges. I mean, our Kind Words program, we found it really beneficial. Our first couple of years, everyone told us, like, running a hatchery, it's really hard work. It's okay if you fail. Not everyone is successful, even people who have been doing this for a really long time. And so we were like, okay. But we implemented our Kind Words program right away, and what we found was that our partners who had been doing this, not like much longer than us, but had been established a couple of years longer than us, had catastrophic failures in their hatcheries, while we had just abundant. Every single one of our tanks was doing so incredible, to the point where we had enough seeds to share with kelp farms all the way from Maine down to, all across Long Island, from Montauk Point to Jamaica Bay. And so, we've had a lot of success, but now utilizing this new technology that's been developed, it really allows us to get out into the water a couple of months ahead of time. So while we haven't gone out, we have been working really closely with Dr. Gobler in the School of Atmospheric Science, and the data now is showing that there's improved feasibility, which is good for the seaweed bill also, because again, it narrows the scope down to only Gardner's Bay and Peconic Bay. The studies have shown that that's where kelp actually grows the worst. But we're really, it's a goal of ours, so we're really looking forward to next season to being able to get out there with this improved methodology. Mike Dole from the School of Atmospheric Science has really been instrumental in developing like shallow water techniques that could work very well in the Peconic. So we haven't yet, but it's our plan to do so.
Great. We have time for one more question before the one question I asked.
It's all of the Peconic estuary, the entire Peconic estuary, the feasibility studies. And these feasibility studies, again, are based on the wild diving. Last year, we had to send divers out 6 times before we were able to get a successful source tissue release. And that's just because the water is so warm that the kelp is just not adapting, it's not modifying itself to be able to survive in these new conditions. And of course, the water is getting warmer because of all of the excess carbon, so it's something that we're trying to address, but it's just the feasibility for the entire Peconic estuary, it just wasn't there. But now with the gametophyte production and the gametophyte production, it's based on those strains that have been identified as being the best adapted to warming temperatures. So we believe that we can go up still a couple of degrees and still have this strain that can really thrive. The yield, the productivity of using this methodology is really promising, and it's allowing us to get out 2 months earlier, which is allowing us to bypass some of the harmful algae blooms like the slip gut and other types of like toxic things that kind of just suffocate your really young juvenile kelp. So it's promising. That data right now is being worked on by the School of Atmospheric Science, but we're hoping that there will be new feasibility studies which will increase the hope for the entire Peconic estuary, which will help a lot of our local baymen, oystermen, those who are doing scallops, clams, because when you grow those types of shellfish together with kelp, you really see like really incredible benefits.
So I think that we are out of time, because I know that you guys have you've been so generous with your brains and your spirit and your time already. So thank you so much. The question is, what can each one of us do to aid in your efforts?
I would say, just I promise I won't talk a lot. I would say that to be on our contact list, to be able for us to contact you when we need help with, whether it's emailing, legislation, supporting this, supporting that, flyers here, whatever. Just our allies are everywhere, and our alliance building is beautiful, and this kelp can bring us all together, for the sake of our beautiful planet.
What's that? So we are citizen scientists, just like you. And we are here to share our mission to regenerate our shores and invite you to find your way. Going into Shinnecock Bay in January might not be for you. But there are things that you can do. And if that is maybe sharing our mission with your family and your friends and talking to your landscaper about using less harmful fertilizers, or talking to your golf club about maybe changing their fertilizer and thinking maybe, hey, give this a try. Be creative. I never intended to be in Shinnecock Bay in January growing sugar kelp. It's a surprise. But it also offered me a really wonderful meditative practice that I'm able to make a really big impact on our local waters.
Yeah, just super quick. You know, the work that we're doing is probably equivalent to 12 septic system updates. So if you can check in on the status of your septic system, make sure that you're updated to the most advanced nitrogen removing septic system possible. There is money available through the county. That being said, there's a referendum coming up in November, a county-wide referendum. Vote yes for the Suffolk County water quality restoration. That's the major way that we can fund these types of septic systems. While there is the need for the wastewater treatment at the municipal level, the upgrading your septic system is something that you can do as an individual or as a family. It's really vitally important.
So much. So this is Rebecca Genia, Tela Troge, Danielle Hopson Begun. Becky, if you don't know, is one of the co-founders also of the Thunderbird Sisters, whose beautiful song you heard in the video, and we're going to go out with a little bit of an impromptu performance. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here with us tonight.
Name.